So it's a day after the League Two playoff final where Walsall have lost 1-0 to Wimbledon in the final at Wembley. So in today's video, I'm going to speak about the season on the whole and just give my thoughts, really. So speak about the season, just an emotional roller coaster of a season where we've had the highs and the lows again, from one extreme to the other. You know, started the first half of the season, we'll speak about that then. You know, got off to a really good start, didn't we? You know, first game of the season, 1-0 win at Morecambe, backed it up with a 4-0 win away at Swindon, and you know, we went on a really good run in that first half season. You know, we had a few low moments in there, which is going to happen in football, obviously, that 6-2 defeat to Fleetwood, but we've bounced back really well from that game. You know, I was on the 1st of October, I think we went 13 games unbeaten after that game, and that first half of the season, there was some good football played. It was high pressing on the front foot at times, and you know, we were ruthless in front of goal as well. And you know, there seemed to be a real kind of identity about Walsall in that first half of the season. Obviously, we went clear at the top of the league. We went top of the league, I mean, when we bet Port Vale on the 7th of December, 1-0 away, and you know, that was a good away day that was, away at Port Vale. Obviously took us top of the league. By the 16th of January, I think it is, Walsall were 12 points clear with a game in hand. I think we was on 56 points at that stage, and what we've got to speak about is where it's gone so wrong in the second half of the season. It's just an absolute collapse. I don't think it's been seen ever in football, this you know, kind of bottle that Walsall have done. And you know, we're obviously going to speak on about the playoff final you know, later in the video, but it should never have come to that. It should have been done and dusted, and Walsall should have been promoted. The second half of the season is nothing short of unacceptable. You know, you look at the form firstly, to finish the season, it's 3 wins in 21 games. That is just absolutely shocking at any level of football. And some of the kind of performances that I've seen over the last kind of 3 months have been terrible from this side. You know, how can you go from playing some good stuff in the first half of the season to the second half of the season, putting in some absolutely, you know, diabolical performances? People will say about Nathan Lowe leaving. Obviously, him getting recalled in January was kind of a massive impact on Walsall, but it's not just down to him. While Walsall have kind of let this promotion slip this season. You know, he's, like I said, an influential player for Walsall, but not enough of the players have stepped up enough, in my opinion, and haven't showed it on a consistent basis over the second half of the season. You know, you look back through some of the games in the second half of the season, that run we had towards the end where we played, I think we played Harrogate, Accrington, Stanley, Newport, and I think out of them 3 games we only picked 2 points up. You know, you don't deserve to get promoted if you're not going to be winning games like that. Some absolute terrible performances in there as well. That Barrow game, obviously we're going to speak about the manager, Matt Sadler, but for me, that is the game where we should have got sacked when we lost 2-0 away at Barrow. You could see something wasn't right in the squad, and you know, if we'd have maybe brought someone in after that game, we could have potentially saved the season. But you know, on the whole, it's just disappointing, isn't it? You know, for, you know, fans that haven't, you know, kind of had that taste of promotion, including myself, it is really disappointing. You know, you get so close. It's the Walsall way, though. You know, to build your hopes up, you think you're going somewhere, then just, you know, everything gets kind of crumbled down, and you know, it's unacceptable what's happened in the second half of the season. I mean, everyone, I said it in my video a couple of weeks ago, you know, before the playoffs, everyone at the football club has got to take responsibility of what's happened in the second half of the season. You know, they're getting praise in the first half of the season, which was rightly so, but you don't win the league or get promoted in December and January. And the word to describe what's happened is complacency in the second half of the season, from the January transfer window to Matt Sadler and his tactics, to the players, the performances. Everything's just been done at just like a complacent mentality. You know, we're going to have this mentality that, yeah, we're going to see promotion over the line because we had a 12-point lead at the top of the league. That's never going to happen in football. You've got to keep going at it game by game, and you know, not enough of them players have stepped up. Second half of the season, nothing short of really disappointing. And obviously, going to last game of the season against Crewe, obviously we're 1-0 up. looking like we're going to get promoted. Then Bradford scored with the last kick of the game. That was disappointing. But again, we say time and time again, it should never have come to that, going into the last game of the season. Then obviously, speaking about the playoff campaign now, obviously, over the last couple of weeks, that Chesterfield game looked like we kind of, got that spark back in our performances. The energy was there. And obviously, we bet Chesterfield 4-1 in aggregate. The first leg, the performance was a solid one, a disciplined one. I think the performances over 2 legs, really. People were saying we were back in terms of performances. I didn't see that. It wasn't kind of exceptional and at the standards where they were from the first half of the season. But you could see there was you thought there was definitely kind of an energy of our play. And, we was actually taking our chances in front of goal as well. And, Chesterfield kept a lot of the ball, kind of worked in terms of how we kind of played this season, not having enough of the ball and just hitting teams in the transition on the counter. And obviously saw us into Wembley. Everyone getting their hopes up. 17,000 Walsall fans make the travel to Wembley to get let down, really. I think the players, the manager, and then the rest of them, they've let the fans down yesterday. That performance from Walsall was embarrassing, personally. In a playoff final, I read a stat, I think we're the only side in a playoff final not to register a shot in the first half. That is absolutely shocking. And that kind of summed up Walsall's day. We failed to turn up at Wembley again. And, it wasn't a great game of football at all. If you see my video from my, instant reaction after the game, it was not a great game of football from both sides. The quality was really poor on show. But what Wimbledon bet us at yesterday was commitment, desire, winning every second ball that, kind of dropped in the middle of the park, and every 50-50 ball in the air. They've won everything, and that's where we kind of lost it yesterday. The basics of football, winning your battles across the pitch. We didn't do that enough yesterday. We still had chances in that game yesterday as well, So that Matt won, and, that Amanchi won as well, where he's just got to put his foot through that, and that could go in the back of the net. We've had chances, even playing really poorly, and, to kind of bottle promotion not once, but twice. My initial thoughts at the moment is, where do we go from here now? It's gonna, take a while for it all to process, really, and it's just so disappointing. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, we speak about having good moments as a football club. We've had a little bit this season in games, and obviously that first half of the season where we won 9 games in a row to break a club record. That was a good time at the football club. But again, personally, I think it's a disappointing season. From the position we were in, it should never have slipped. And it's going to speak about Matt Sadler. He's got to be sacked, personally. I just don't see how he can lead us into next season. I think he should have been sacked a long while ago as well. Like I mentioned, that game at the Barrow one, and for me, was where you could just see something wasn't right from everyone in terms of the manager, the players. Something had just definitely gone in that side. And what frustrates me about Matt Sadler, just, kind of his tactics, really boring, predictable, unwilling to change. And what annoys me the most is, we've been calling for a kind of change in the formation and the system for the last 3 months, and he waits the last game of the season to do it. If he'd have just done that a few weeks before, we could have potentially not been in this position where we've, lost in a playoff final, let a 12-point gap, kind of slip at the top of the league. So disappointing. Yeah, I don't think Matt Sadler should be in charge next season. I think he's not good enough as a manager to lead us into next season. I just think a mentality side as well. Matt Sadler will always be known as the manager that led Walsall to the top of the league by January and let it slip in the playoffs as well. So yeah, we've got to have a fresh start in terms of management, in my opinion. And then I think there's going to be a massive rebuild in the summer as well. Lots of players out of contract. Obviously, a lot of our squad as well made up of loan players. I think some of the players contracted as well are going to be kind of subject to interest from other sides as well. So it's going to be a really interesting summer. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see what they're doing in terms of Matt Sadler. Will he stay on? It wouldn't surprise me if the club did keep him. They'll probably see getting to a playoff final is progression. But the next season is going to be our 7th season in League Two. It's not on, and it's It hasn't been good enough for a long while. Obviously, we've got obviously finished fourth, obviously 11th last season, but we're still in the same league next season. I don't see how that is progression, and the way it's happened and the way the season's ended is, I'm just glad the season's over, to be honest with you, because it's absolutely drained me this season, following this club home and away, and, just seeing kind of the contrast in performances from the first half of the season to the second half of the season it's just mental, isn't it? Football for you. But, the promotion would have been brilliant for the fan base yesterday. They would have deserved it the most from the support this season, and the support over the last few years, and since I've been following this football club, has been absolutely brilliant, and it would have meant everything to the town and the fans yesterday. It's just really disappointing that the players let us down yesterday. But we'll see what happens going forward in terms of the summer, the retained list. I'm going to do a video later today as well, giving my thoughts what should happen over the summer in terms of players, in terms of what we do in terms of keep, sell, in terms of players out of contract. So wait and look out for that. But so disappointing and just angry what's happened in the second half of the season. To bottle promotion not once or twice is unacceptable. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on Walsall's season. Look out for the video later as well, and up the saddle.